In this game, winners win, and I only back winners. Trainer Kenny McPeak is a proven winner, and his horses are in my portfolio. And now they can be in yours too. McPeak's champion horses and Derby hopefuls are now featured on Morning Line. With Morning Line, I don't just watch the race. I own the moment. I invest in champions. This is my edge. Buy, sell, trade, anytime. Morning Line. Own the game.
Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the feature race on Saturday at Aqueduct. It is a Kentucky Derby prep race, the Grade 3 Gotham, which closes out the 10-race card in New York. This one, the traditional Gotham distance, a one-turn mile prep for the Wood Memorial, which will be run in early April. And Mike, probably not going to hold as many Kentucky Derby implications as some other preps taking place this weekend, the Fountain of Youth and the Rebel, but there are some intriguing horses entered in this field. Let's throw up the group of 9 runners that were entered for the Gotham. We are expecting one scratch out of this race. Our colleague Dave Grenning did report that the number 8 Creole Chrome, who's cross-entered at Fairgrounds, he is not going to ship for this race, so likely to go forward with at most a field of 8 runners. And Mike, among them, the one that figures to attract the most attention is the number 6 Iron Honor, just based on the speed figure here and on debut.
Yeah, he earned a standout figure, winning his career debut in December, sprinting. Now they're going to stretch him out to the one-turn mile, and we'll see if he can, replicate that performance, because it was a pretty good one. I think the best thing about this race, David, at least from my point of view, I think you're right. I don't think we're going to get necessarily a Derby horse out of the Gotham. There's a chance for some horses to step forward in here and make a little bit of noise. I'm not sure that the favorites are necessarily that strong in here.
Yeah, there are, I would say, 2 or 3 horses that I think have potential to do okay in this division moving forward. Whether it's at Churchill Downs the first Saturday in May remains to be seen, but the Gotham is always a race that can produce some interesting one-turn horses down the line. We'll see if that's the case this year. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race, Mike. And the number 6 Iron Honor, that favorite, is shown leading. I don't know if this is a horse that needs the lead, but he did obviously show speed to chase a very fast horse first time out. So it would be no surprise if he was forward in this race, but the number 9, Dirty Rich, is pretty fast coming out of sprint, so it would be no surprise if that horse was able to clear to the front.
Yeah, I thought there were a couple of horses that were eligible to show more speed than the 6 in this race, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. Iron Honor, he did debut in a race that was run at a very solid pace, sprinting, and he kept up with it. So, maybe he is fast enough. I just thought that there were other candidates to outrun that horse to the lead this time.
But your point is well taken, Mike. It feels like there is plenty of speed in this race. Even the horse that is shown, 6th, 7th on the pace projector, the number 7 Exhibition Only, that's a horse that wants to be forward. So it would be no surprise if it heated up on the front end, and maybe that could set it up for a closer. The one who does have the LP flag indicating he has the highest Timeform US late pace rating in this race is the number 5, Right to Party. We'll see if he gets the pace setup that he needs. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with one of the horses that probably wants to be forward, the number 1 Balboa. This horse who ran pretty well in the Remsen 2 back. He was 3rd behind Paladin and Renegade, considered 2 of the top early contenders for the Kentucky Derby. But Mike, given how well he ran in the Remsen, you had to be a little disappointed in this race that we're taking a look at when he lost as the heavy favorite in the Jerome. The winner, My World, he was a progressive sort for Brad Cox, looked okay at the time, but that horse came back to really disappoint when they tried a tougher spot in Saudi Arabia next time. So you do wonder a little bit about the quality of this race and the fact that Balboa just failed to take a step forward in his 3-year-old debut.
Yeah, I agree. That's just a bad loss, man. The Jerome. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of an excuse for it. I know that Brittany Russell had this horse entered in a race that was probably going to be easier for him last weekend in Maryland, and she didn't run him there. She scratched him to run him here. So maybe that's a good sign for him. And I'm with you. I thought his Remsen was sort of quietly a good performance. I did not necessarily expect him to run that well in there. And he ran pretty well against a really good field. So maybe he's more the Remsen Balboa than he is the Jerome Balboa. And that'll make him really tough in here. I do not like his last race.
Should mention, Mike, Brittany Russell LaBarne, that typically clicks consistently at 30%. She's been in a pretty significant slump since the start of 2026. I don't know how much you follow the Laurel circuit, but she has not been winning at her typical click for the past month or two. Something to note for the dip in form we saw for Balboa. The number 2, Hammond, he has a South Florida shipper coming up for trainer Safi Joseph. Guess he didn't want to run 4 in the Fountain of Youth, so 1 was rerouted to the Gotham here. This horse has improved in every start so far, Mike, and he's run even better than the results would suggest. A couple of times. He had a wild trip when he broke his maiden second time out, got steadied early, had to make a second run around the far turn to take that race over. And then last time in the swale, Mike, again, not an ideal trip for this horse. You can watch the start here. He's the number 4, just doesn't break well. He's about a length slow out of the starting gate, not where you want to be, especially in a race that didn't feature a whole lot of speed, dominated on the front end. And he makes this wide, far turn move to go after his stablemate. He can't get to that horse, Solitude Dude, who's just more naturally talented than he is, but he never gives up. He stays on for third. I think this horse is coming along nicely, Mike. We'll see if he gets better going a mile.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not convinced that that's going to be the case, but I guess we'll see in here. I just, he obviously had an excuse in this race that we're watching, Dave, because he blew the brake. The pace wasn't fast. I would just say, I don't want to try to mitigate it necessarily, but the run that he made there off the turn was at a time when Solitude Dude was kind of inviting everybody to make runs at him at that point. He didn't really ask that horse until the stretch, and then he just ran away from them. So I'm not sure how big a run he actually made to get back into that race, but he still ran fine in there. I think the thing that holds me back with this horse when I'm wondering how far he wants to go is the race 2 back. I don't like that performance that much. I just don't think that he ran that well winning that race against only 3 other horses. And it just makes me question how good this horse is.
Yeah, I do wonder if there were maybe some issues going on because there was a 3-month break after his maiden win. Then there was another 2-month break after that race 2 back. So Safi Joseph typically runs his horses. I wonder his recent training, I should say, has been strong. His recent workouts look good coming in here. I do wonder about the distance though, because he's a half brother to a horse named Donut God, who's a pure sprinter. So I wonder how far he wants to go. The number 3, Crown the Buckeye. He's a horse that's actually turning back in distance from some 2-turn races. And Mike, I think this horse really needs the turn back. He has just not been able to finish those races down at Fairgrounds. It looked like he had the gun runner one, just couldn't see it out in the final 16th of a mile. And last time in the Lecomte, the pace was honest. It came apart, and he was the first of the speeds to sort of drop away as they came into the stretch. I think that turning back to a mile is really going to work for him, especially around one turn. I guess my question to you, Mike, is do we really know how good this horse is?
No, I don't. I'm wondering. I think this is probably a pretty good spot for Maker to find out exactly what he has here. His gun runner was fine. I mean, I don't think he had like some kind of huge excuse in that race. He ran pretty well in that race against a decent field. To me, he was just bad in the Lecomte last time. I know that the pace was solid. I know the winner came from out of it to win, but the horses that he was on the pace with finished 3rd and 4th in there. They ran way better than this horse did. He was just all done at basically at the top of the stretch of that race. So I do think he can run a little bit. I do think the 1-turn mile can really work for this horse. He's got speed, but he doesn't necessarily need the lead, to be comfortable out there on the racetrack. There are things to like about this horse, but I think it's sort of what you were alluding to, David. How good is he really? And do you want to take any kind of a short price on him in here?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Mike. I don't think he needs to be as forward as he's been the past couple of times. He rated pretty kindly in that win, albeit against weaker at Mahoning Valley. So I wouldn't be surprised if they change up his running style and take him back in this start. Or another horse who could change up his running style is the number 4, 4th and 1, because like when you watch the early part of the Withers last time, this horse absolutely resented being rated the way that Jamie Rodriguez was trying to. He got him off the pace initially, and then he was pulling, just refusing to settle. And that's not the way you want to see a horse running around the first turn of their first 2-turn test. And even beyond that, Mike, that was during that intense rail bias period at Aqueduct that he was just outside every step of the way. So it's easy to draw a line through the Withers. I still go back to his prior form and wonder if he's good enough against a field of this quality.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. You have to give him a pass for the Withers. Nothing went right for him in there. And that, whether or not he's an open stakes horse remains to be seen, but you can't judge him off of that one. So you have to go back to his races as a 2-year-old and judge him off of those. When I look at those races, I'm not sure. I mean, I thought he ran okay in a couple of the losses early on. When he broke his maiden, I just thought he beat a terrible field, and he did it really easily.
The number 5, Right to Party, is a horse with a pretty nice pedigree by constitution. The second dam Chimichurri, she was a horse that could go a stakes winner from 6 furlongs out to a mile. So definitely has the versatility there to be effective at this mile distance against a graded stakes company. Mike, this horse had actually debuted in the same race as Iron Honor and just got outrun in the early stages like a lot of horses were. But I like the way that he was finishing up the rail at the end of that race. He galloped out pretty well. And unsurprisingly, some added distance really worked for him last time. We'll take a look at his maiden win when they stretched out to a mile. I don't love the field that he was beating because some horses have come out of this race to not run particularly well in subsequent starts. I still liked this horse's performance because you could see he's covered in kickback. He was towards the inside. This is one of those days where you didn't really want to be towards the inside, and he pops out at the top of the stretch, finally getting off the rail, and he finishes up pretty nicely, but you could see he's still green. He's hanging on his left lead all the way to the wire. I think there's further upside with this horse, Mike. It just is a matter of how much he can improve in this race.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I do think that there is probably a little bit more room to improve with this horse still. I thought he ran fine last time. I thought he just had, in a lot of ways, I just thought he had all the best of it in there, just because that was a contested pace in front of him. He got outrun last year. They were going at it in front of him. And I also just thought Raylu Gutierrez gave him a perfect closer strip in that race. He didn't lose any ground on the turn. He came clear in the stretch, and he came and he ran those horses over. But it was a good performance. He ran fine in his career debut also. And so he's a horse I don't have any knocks on, David. And I understand that this race, he's in another racer that could set up really, really well for him. And so I don't really have, any knocks on this horse. I'll just wait and see what kind of price he is.
The number 6, Iron Honor, he is going to be a heavy favorite in this race on the basis of this race that we'll take a look at when he won on debut. 95 buyer for the victory, Mike, and you kind of look through the card this day in the charts, and the number makes total sense. It was just a fast race when you compare it to the surrounding races, and the runner-up in here crossing the channel, he's a horse that's run fast before this and subsequently, so the number does kind of check out. You can make the argument maybe it's a few points high, but not high by that much, and he has a significant speed figure advantage coming into this race because there's just nobody else in this field that's run particularly fast, especially going longer distances. Now, Iron Honor does have to stretch out. This was 6 furlongs on debut. He's got to prove that he can go longer. I will say, Mike, I don't know if you got any notes on that December 13th card. I thought speed was very good that day, so I wonder if the track carried him a little bit and inflated the number just slightly. He definitely is coming in as the horse to beat. It's just a matter of how short a price you want to take on a horse with this profile.
100%. Yeah, and the other thing about that race, too, because you're right. I mean, that pace was fast. There's no denying that they were going a solid clip in there. But even with that pace involved, the horses that were up there ran 1-2 in there. The closers didn't really make an impact. So, but listen, maybe that says more about him and Crossing the Channel than it does about the other horse, because Crossing the Channel is pretty good, as you pointed out. And maybe this horse is pretty good, too. I thought he did a lot of good things in the debut, and it came back a fast race. And then I'm with you on, maybe not wanting to take 6-5 on this horse. But man, personally speaking, I start looking around at this field, and especially the other horses who can get batting here, and I just don't like them. Iron Honor has a real chance to just be better than those horses.
It's totally fair, Mike. Just with a horse like this, I think you're at least supposed to try to poke some holes. And I will say, when you look up the stats in Formulator for Chad Brown, he does not have good numbers doing this. Off debut wins on the dirt in general, it's a bad stat for him. It's an even worse stat when you filter it down to stakes races. So I just wonder if this horse is going to be overbet too much in this race. And I will say, I saw a video of his last workout down at Payson for this, and I would have liked to see him outwork the horse that he was paired with, who's a lower quality horse, a little better than he did. I actually thought he got slightly outworked in that drill. I just wanted to see more of a horse that's going to be a pretty short price coming into Tri-Stakes Company for the first time. The number 7, Exhibition Only. He's a horse that's coming off a competitive speed figure, an 84 buyer that he earned going this distance, getting back on dirt for the first time since his career debut. Problem twofold, Mike. He was doing it against much weaker company. And also, he's another one of those horses that was riding that rail bias at Aqueduct.
Yeah, it seems like it really helped this horse. We'll see. Listen, maybe he was off a little bit of a layoff there, 3-year-old debut, back on dirt for the first time in a while. And he was also first-time LASIK. So maybe he just really improved. But it also kind of feels like the track had a lot to do with it.
Mike, we'll skip over the number 8, Creole Chrome. As I mentioned earlier, he is unexpected to participate in this race, going to run down at Fairgrounds instead. So we'll move on to the number 9, Dirty Rich. Mike, we were talking about there just a lack of raw talent of the mid-90s buyer that we saw from Iron Honor among this field. The number 9, Dirty Rich, he's one of those horses that has actually run some speed figures that are within range of the favor coming in here, including when he earned an 89 buyer for that Advent Stakes victory 2 back at Oaklawn Park. I guess the problem is the distance, because by far the 2 best races of his career are going 5.5 furlongs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always hard to really buy into big figures going that distance on the dirt, at least in my opinion. So I don't know, man. This horse is pretty good, though. He is fast and he is pretty good. I'm not convinced at all that he wants to stretch out to the 1-turn mile. But against this field, I guess if he can clear the lead from that outside post, I guess he could be a little dangerous.
I will say, when you look up that fig in Formulator 2 back for the Advent and see the run-backs from that race, there's an argument that that's a number that is significantly inflated and maybe should be taken a second look at by the buyer team. Well, Mike, before we get to our picks for this race, let's hear a word from the sponsor of this video, Morning Line.
Morningline.io is the official sponsor of this preview. Unlock access to some of racing's most coveted bloodlines, mares and colts connected to championship pedigrees. Morningline is a private SEC-regulated marketplace where approved participants can trade licensed interests in elite racehorses. No ongoing costs. Build your stable only at morningline.io.
And let's see our picks for this grade 3 Gotham. And Mike, I'm going to take a bit of a stand here. I'm poking some holes in the number 6 Iron Honor. I didn't love the workout I saw. Don't love the stats for Chad Brown. I just feel like he's going to be sort of the default option for a lot of people in this race because this just did not come up the strongest Derby prep. But I think there are other ways to go. I like the number 2 Hammond. I'm not sure about the distance, but I like his last race. And the number 5 Right to Party. I just think that he's supposed to get the right pace setup coming in. I really liked his debut when he was a little bit against the track profile. And I just think he's a horse that has another step forward in him, given some of the greenness that we've seen. But he's going to have to improve because the horse you've got on top, Iron Honor, has a significant figure edge on this field.
Yeah, you disagree. I like the way you put that, though. You said Iron Honor is probably the default position for a lot of people in this race. That's what he is for me. The longer I looked at the race, I did like his debut. I thought he ran well in there, and I think he has a chance to be pretty good. And then on top of that, I just don't like anybody else in this race, David. I'm not betting this race, but I'm not going to, so I'm not going to pick against this horse. He's the favorite. I think he's a pretty likely winner. I'll put him on top.
6-3-5-1 for Mike and 5-2-3-6 for me in the grade 3 Gotham, the final race on a 10 race card at Aqueduct this Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.